This podcast contains detailed plot spoilers, adult language, and mature themes. Listener discretion is advised.
All right, welcome to a podcast of Rare Antiquities, everyone. We continue with our episode-by-episode recap of Star Trek Picard. Tonight it is episode 6, The Impossible Box. Harry, how you doing, man?
I am good. How are you?
Pretty good. We're churning these out here. It's pretty good.
Yeah, now we just got to get them out there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on it. So.
One thing at a time. So yeah, let's just jump in. What did you, so after, last, I think we had a string of a couple of stronger episodes. What did you think of this one?
I guess at the same level. I mean, there's positives and negatives to this episode. I, for the most part, enjoyed it, but there are still some things that are bugging me, mainly with the writing. And some characterization on some of the other characters outside of Picard. But I do enjoy that this show got things moving, and Picard finally caught up to Soji. So now finally I feel we can really get moving.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
And I do believe, and I'll let you can bring it up or talk about it, we finally, even though we knew the background on this Jacques Vage or Doc Vage or whatever we're talking about, this Romulan secret service that hates synthetics, we finally get an idea on what the fuck their plan was, what they were trying to get out of Soji.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's more, even though it might have been mentioned in a previous episode, it's more abundantly clear in this one. So, Overall, it's a good episode, but I do have some problems with it still.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same place. It was okay. Yeah, it was good. But yeah, there's a few things here. We open with Soji dreaming, so right away I'm disappointed that we have to start an episode with her and Narek in bed again. I think I understand that they're trying to make Star Trek was sort of traditionally really stiff and like there wasn't any sex. There was, the interpersonal relationships were very stale and they only had what the actors could bring to those personal relationships. So, for example,
you mean more like a professional working culture is what we're talking about? Because I know where you're going with this, but my question here is, correct me if I'm wrong, I clearly remember in TNG and in DS9, we have, and let's just focus on TNG then.
Yeah.
We clearly had, they didn't focus on it, but the characters had relationships. Riker was sleeping around. We weren't kind of focusing, and there were episodes where we saw him not fornicating, but like dating or talking about dating, and same thing with Troy, same thing with Geordi. He always had trouble with the woman. Even Data got, into it with the relationship, and, he was fully functional with, what's her name? Denise Crosby's Tasha. So, I mean, and Picard on Ryza, and what's that? Vosh, all that stuff. So, I mean, we've had these things before. So I don't...
We have had these things, but they were not always peripheral. Like, again, I've been watching a lot of these episodes lately, and they're great. Like, they're great. And the reason why they're great is because they had such great chemistry. That's kind of what I was getting at, it's actually really difficult to portray these types of relationships. You need your performers to really sell it. And what's driving me nuts about Narek and Soji is that they don't have any chemistry, and it's really forced. Like it just falls back on a lot of, silly relationship tropes. So that's why I say, like, I can understand, like, there's no real reason to focus on these two. And I think the reason they're doing it is they're trying to, like, make it a little less stiff, like have a little bit of sex, have a little bit of that, that normal human stuff. But because they just don't click. And Narek is really driving me nuts, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't care for that character. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's the actor or if it's the character or both, but every time he's on the screen, I'm like, get a haircut, you
Well,
You
yeah.
Romulan beetle.
Okay, yes, I'm with you. I'm not a fan of Narek, but I put that more to the writing more than I'm going to blame the actor. It's not like they don't have chemistry either, so I agree. If the two leads there don't have chemistry, we got a big problem. I mean, I'm not going to completely fault the actor over there, but I know what you're saying. They're trying to modernize this for trying to get new people hooked into Star Trek, just like they did with the JJ stuff and what they're doing with Discovery. They're and Star Trek's always been reflective of modern times. You know, the 60s Star Trek was filmed in a certain way because that's how things were filmed back then. And now we're doing, TNG started almost very similar, but then it found a different footing. DS9 found its own identity, and, Voyager and Enterprise, we could talk about that separately, but I don't think they were trying to figure out what their identity was. But
yeah, anyways, I don't really want to talk about Voyager or Enterprise ever.
Yeah,
at all.
but so this is reflective, but the problem here is the way they have staging this. It doesn't feel any different than any other, how should I say it, BTV sci-fi show.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah, the way it doesn't feel like it has an identity of its own. And that's going to fall in line with kind of what Enterprise was trying to do, was trying to figure it out, and it figured it out too late, and then it was done, the series was done.
Yeah.
And even though I never watched it, but that's the gist of what I got from most people talking about it. So I feel that this is heading in the same direction, except it might hit an earlier grave if it doesn't rectify itself, and it's not a good thing. But we could talk about that. I agree with everything you've said. I agree with. So maybe let's focus just on the plot of this particular episode. Then we can maybe delve into some of that stuff.
So after the nightmare, we get back to the La Serena, I believe is our hero starship. There's a little bit of aftermath about Maddox's death. Dr. Jurati gives some pretty lame excuse.
I want to talk about this.
They really yada yada over this guy's death. Like, did the EMH not realize? How did she kill him? I can't remember. Did she inject him with something?
She must have, yeah. She must have injected him with something. I kind of remember she did something. She gave something. And it's very strange. Now, this is a futuristic ship. You got an EMH there. You have all this tech there. You would think that there would be some kind of trace on how he died. I'm not saying we necessarily need to have security footage, even though I'm sure that would be aplenty in every room on that ship, except maybe a personal quarter. Personal quarters. So, but what really bugged me more about the EMH, or just, tracking how Maddox died and getting that verification, is that Picard kind of lets this go pretty easily. It's like he was with him. He buys it, and I don't know why. I'm trying to figure that out.
Well, I mean, I guess I'd buy it too. Like, he was in pretty rough shape, and you're not, nothing suspicious about his death, and she's clearly broken up, like she's not acting suspicious, right? So without any evidence pointing to something being off, then, like, I understand. Well, I don't know. I guess that kind of comes down to, how the computer could let it happen. Why was the EMH deactivated? All of that stuff. So yeah, why didn't they see any of that? Like, the guy died. Like, didn't they look at the logs? Like, how did this happen? Where was the EMH? There's alarms. We know the EMH shows up at the drop of a hat. All of the emergency holograms show up almost automatically, like the computer consents when something's happening, and they just show up. They just pop up, right?
That's right. And here's the other thing, is that why does she have any say on that ship to deactivate the EMH? Technically, that should come from the man in charge, who's the captain.
Yeah, that's right.
He would be the only one who would be able to deactivate. That's how, she just boarded the ship, technically. It's not like he gave her codes to, here's the whole, you have complete control of the ship
now. You should be able, obviously you'd assume they'd be able to summon the emergency hologram, but not necessarily to deactivate, especially in what's clearly an emergency situation. These are just convenient, they're just doing plot conveniences, right? So that they can get to where they want to go. And that's, I don't know.
Yeah, it just
I can buy here and there, it's fine, but there's too many now.
Yeah, it's too many, and it just bugs me that, because this is Picard's main mission was to find Maddox. Now he's dead, and it's like, okay, So it's not like I wanted him to mourn for Maddox. I just wanted him to be a little bit more shocked and concerned and say, how the fuck did this happen? I was just with the man. And it's just, you know what I mean? I know what you're saying. There was reasoning behind it, but he didn't have a gunshot. He didn't, a phaser blast or poison or anything like that. Not that I know of. She gave
Well, we don't know what was wrong with him. He was pretty fucked up though when they got him, right? So those mercenaries or whoever on that planet worked him over pretty. He was poisoned, right? And then they worked him over.
I guess. Anyways, let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on. So, okay, so some more yada-yadaing between Girardi and Rios, whatever. Again, more sex, that's fine.
Yeah. Again, more forced. I know we got 10 episodes to play with, but
as soon as I saw him without his shirt on, kicking that ball around, I'm like, oh, he's getting laid tonight. I just didn't know who it was going to be, if it was going to be her or Raffi. And when I saw her come out in a tank top, I'm like, okay, well, that ends in a certain way. And that's, again, like, that's what people do. Like, people get down. So I'm okay with it. They don't really have chemistry either, but they both kind of seem to like, actually, what I didn't mind about that scene is because they don't have chemistry, they both were kind of just like, well, we're here. May as well bone.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And that's okay.
That's fine. I don't, you're right. Yeah. This shit happens all the time in real life. But when I'm looking at a TV show, I'd prefer it to be a bit more organic in a sense. I know they did get, they did get organic under the sheets, but I'm just, you know.
Yeah. It didn't,
from a writing perspective.
It's probably not necessary.
I'll just say this. They put more thought into the relationship in a porn than they did here. So.
I don't know. I always fast forward that part. So so we get back to the cube or the artifact. We get a couple clues here. So Narek, he starts dropping clues, but directly to Soji. Like every time you call your mother, every call lasts precisely 70 seconds, and then Soji says she falls asleep. So there's that conversation between Narek and his sister there. He tells her that she's dreaming. And it seems that her subconscious has been programmed to dream in order to, let me try to get this straight. She was programmed to be able to dream in order to reconcile the fact that she's not human because of the way her brain works. It would eventually figure it out. Is that about right?
That's about right. It has to be that case, right?
Okay.
So there's no other explanation from my perspective. Yeah.
Question then. Okay, so Maddox did construct these two.
I don't know. I have no idea yet.
Because he knew about them, right? Like he's the one who directed them to the artifact, so he knows.
But why did he direct them to the artifact? For what?
Because he knows that Soji's there, and Picard's looking for her, right?
No, yeah. I thought you meant Soji. He directed Soji to the artifact.
No, she just went there because, well, we don't know. Because they're only 3 years old. So why were they built? Why were they built to not know what they are? Like, remember that episode of TNG where Soong had built, like a replica of his late wife and programmed her to not know what she was? And I was always and the only reason that he did that is because he wanted her to think, he didn't want her to think she was a copy. He wanted her to think she was the original. But Soji and Daj aren't copies of anything. They're originals. So I don't understand why they're being made, why he programmed them to believe they're human when he's got them all programmed with, combat training and all this other, why?
And here's the funny thing. This feels like a major step back from an evolutionary standpoint of a synthetic or an android. Because Data and Lore and even Lal, Data's own thing, they were programmed so they knew what they were. Mm-hmm. And then their task was to evolve naturally, to better themselves, to find a place, or to discover the meaning of life on your own. Just like an actual human being. Here, it feels like it's like backwards. It's like, I've made a better machine, but I don't want them to know what they are. And it just feels like a backward step.
Yeah, like he constructed their identities for them as opposed to letting them, and maybe that's its own experiment, which I guess is, there's still a lot of unanswered questions, so maybe we'll get those answers. But anyway, so this is where Soji definitely realizes something's off. She goes back to her quarters. She gets out all of her old photographs, which is cool. They still have those we're in the 25th century by now, aren't we?
Yeah. That's all right.
Yeah. they have photographs. That's pretty cool. And lunch boxes to keep them in.
It should have been a Star Wars lunchbox. That would have been fucking awesome.
Only if it was the Rise of Skywalker lunchbox.
You open it up, it's a bunch of dog shit in there, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, stinks, it's rotting. Smells like Palpatine in the Last Jedi, or in the Rise of Skywalker. Anyway. But she has so she scans everything, and everything is 30, I think it says everything is 37 months old. So that gives you an idea of she obviously has this constructed identity. So
that was cool. I did enjoy this kind of sleuthing from Soji here, and finally giving her a bit of something to do. That's a bit more smart instead of, oh, that Romulan's hot. So. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, completely agree. I finally enjoyed a scene with her. This is the first time. I mean, I like Dodge. Like, she was cool, and then they blew her up. So it's like, and then you get her sister, and she's totally lame. So hopefully she'll be a little more badass now that she's. Well, we'll get to that. So on the way to the Borg cube, there we need drunk ass Raffi to talk her way into diplomatic credentials for Picard. She's a pretty shitty alcoholic. Mm-hmm. Who drinks right out of the whiskey bottle? Like,
well, I mean, you gotta do it classy, like you should be doing, but if you just don't give a fuck about anything anymore, you just swig out of the bottle. I mean, that's a trope.
It is a trope, and that's why I don't like it. Like, it would have been a lot more fun, I think, if she was pouring it into a glass every time, but was just, like just drinking those glasses, but kept pouring a new glass for herself every time. I don't know. That's a nitpick, but it's such a cliche. An alcoholic drinking right out of the booze bottle that I hate. And I hate cliches. And I think that they should be better.
She should have had a twisty straw.
She should have had a twisty straw.
Right out of that bottle. Then at least, it adds a little flavor.
Speaking of bottles, did you notice? So Narek was drinking Romulan ale.
I did not notice.
Yeah. So it's the scene with his sister. Okay. He drinks some Romulan ale. And the bottle that he uses, it's the same bottles, the same design as the bottles that were often in 10 Forward.
Okay.
Where they kind of have this sort of crystal, like, conical top to it. It's just a neat detail there.
Oh, that's
But yeah, he had himself a little blue ale there.
I do want to say that I didn't mind the scene between him and his sister for once in this episode. Because he's teaching her about patience, and then he has that kind of puzzle box.
Yeah.
And he's revealing, he's telling her, just be patient. I've got a plan. It's all coming into place. Because she's extremely impatient, as she's been in the previous episode. So I did enjoy the scene, and then it pays off. And I like how there's that dual function on the box there. So that was good.
Yeah, it was a better scene. She was less incest rapey in this scene.
Yeah.
So she's still a little bit, but less so. Yeah, I thought it was their best interaction.
Yeah, now this is, I feel like after Game of Thrones, this is now going to be a new cliche or a trope on itself. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, incest works and it sells for some reason, so let's put it in.
Well, how disturbing is that in our culture where we're all like kind of side-eyeing everybody, like, everybody else is seeing what I'm seeing, right? Everybody's okay with this? We're okay with this? Okay, it's fine. Let's just watch this. I guess it's fine. You can do it when they're the bad guys.
Yeah, you can do it when you're when the bad guys. That's right.
When the good guys start getting incestuous-y, then I guess we'll have to worry about a lot more than a TV show. So anyway, we get the diplomatic credentials. Finally we get to the Borg cube. How did you so Picard is, like they're kind of talking to him about it on the ship still before they get there. And he's still freaking out, and he kind of yells at Dr. Jurati there a little bit. He's like, they don't get better. They don't reform, whatever. They metastasize. Mm-hmm. And then he runs off into his holo office and pulls up his research there. I really liked some of the details there. They still kind of use the old TNG LCARS design for computer interface.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so what did you think? There's some pictures and scenes and stuff that they pulled from First Contact and the TNG there. I like those little callbacks.
I like the callbacks. I like that, we don't want Picard. This was extremely traumatic for him. So he's not going to get over this. The only thing here is I felt that it was a bit overplayed when he was looking at I don't mind that he says, okay, they metastasize. He's still angry about who the Borg are. And that's done on purpose because then he has a discovery on the cube, which we'll get to. It's kind of like, here's kind of a little bit more of a self-awareness on what's happening. Because he's saying the Borgs just are worthless, they're nothing, and then he's going to probably see them a little bit more as victims later. Right. So I like that development. What I did not like is when he's back in the office, I think this is a bit heavy-handed, how he's holding his face over the mirror. I like the fact that they kind of superimpose that image and all that stuff. Like, he's rereading about the Borg even though he doesn't have to. I mean, he still has... I like we'll get to it when he keeps hearing about the Borg, and I like, in First Contact and in here, he has these kind of flashes in his memory and his mind, and they do that again when he gets on the Borg cube. I like that stuff. I just don't like that he's like, he's so traumatized by just looking at a picture of Locutus. That he's like, because they do the superimpose with the camera through the picture of Locutus onto him. That was fine. But he's like holding his face and he's holding his hand on the wrong side because it's a mirror image. So like, I think the Borg parts were on the opposite side, so they'd even lost that attention to detail. So he's grasping, he's like, I don't know if you noticed that. He put his hand on the wrong side of the face. It was on the right, it was on the side of the face where the image was, but it was on his other side. So that's a little detail. And the fact that still, he sees that image and then he's like, oh my God. He's holding his face and it's like such a traumatizing thing. I think he's a bit past that. So it was a bit heavy-handed here. Because I think after the events of First Contact, he's kind of not made peace. Is like what he told Seven before. It's like, did you ever get your full humanity back? And that's a great line. No, I didn't. But for him to be like now a traumatized victim, his hand shaking and he's over his face and you can't dare see an image of Locutus. I think after First Contact, he's past that. That was his therapy. Was essentially breaking the Borg Queen in half there.
Yeah. So. No, I agree to some extent. Like it did feel after First Contact that, I mean, he's always going to feel that trauma, but at least it felt, or the movie was trying to tell us that, at least he beat them. He got a chance to defeat them, right? To exercise that demon a little bit. So this was a little bit, this is a little bit heavy-handed. I was going to use the same term. It was a little bit for sure. But anyway, so after that, he gets to the cube, and thank goodness we see Hugh again. I was super glad that we got to see Hugh again, and we got to see him interact with Picard. I really enjoyed their scenes together personally, especially when they hugged. It seemed so genuine. Like they were so glad to see each other, especially Hugh. I loved his performance. I thought he was great. He was so happy to see Picard, and it was almost like he was showing his dad around work, and he's super proud of it, Yeah. I thought it was really good.
I agree. I actually, even before that, I love the scenes where, again, a bit heavy-handed, but again, I can let it slide a tiny, tiny bit because now he's going onto a Borg cube. So it's a bit different than when the Enterprise was being assimilated. So he's getting a little disoriented. And I like how all the former Borg drones are coming to him. He thinks he's going to take him away and get assimilated, but they were actually saving him. What's with these walkways again? We talked about it. We talked about it in Star Wars, and now it's the same thing going on here. I don't remember.
Man, get some handrails. Yeah. Jesus.
Oh man.
It's such a bizarre design choice. Like
that's a trope unto itself now.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah. Any sci-fi evil layer, no handrails. None. It's like the bad guys are like, if you are too much of a pussy to keep your balance on this thin tightrope, we don't want you here.
Yeah, that's right? That's your training.
Exactly.
That's training on the first day.
Yeah, exactly. If you live, you're on the team. If you fail, you die.
That's right.
How bizarre.
I thought that was funny. But I did like the fact that he goes, oh shit, they're just helping me. Because I like how Hughes says, they're trying to prevent you from falling. So, and that was great. And then that kind of alerts Picard on what's going on here. Regarding them meeting, I mean, I'm happy that they're happy. And I felt that there was a genuine happiness as well. I think that was genuine between the actors. Not much acting there, and it was a good thing. Although I'll say after that, when he gets snapped out of it, he's on a Borg cube, I think Picard would have hugged in the same fashion Tomalak. So.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
Oh shit. At least I know somebody here.
It's like you go to a party, there's nobody there, and you just have like the least Like it's somebody you know, but it's completely tangential, but you're so happy that it's somebody's name you can know.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. Tomalak.
Yeah.
Or maybe Admiral, what's her name?
Nechayev.
Nechayev, yeah.
Oh, yeah. They would have gone out back and fornicated, so. Nechayev needed a good pounding. Or a paddling.
She just needed a little kindness. Anyway, okay, so so Narek, thankfully, Narek has access to this secret Romulan meditation memory reclamation bullshit that he put Soji through. I know that they didn't really explore Romulan culture all that much in the previous shows, but what's kind of driving me nuts about Picard is that they just, like, it's great that we are seeing more of the Romulan culture because they've been such an important Star Trek race, and we never knew anything about them because they're so secretive. But now it's just like they're creating everything that they give us that's background for the Romulans is just convenience for the plot. It's like, okay, we need somebody to hate synthetics, Romulans. Okay, well, we need to extract memory from this girl. Okay, well, the Romulans have a ritual for that.
Coronavirus, Romulans.
Yeah, coronavirus, Romulans. Donald Trump, Romulans. So I'm like, okay, well, like that, like it's kind of frustrating because now you can just plug anything in to like that you need for the plot. It'd be like, well, yeah, the Romulans have always been this way. Like, have they though? You know, like they gotta come streaking out of the sky and like these grand warships at the end of this and be like, well, you know, those Romulans always handy with fleets of warships. Thank goodness, you know. Mm-hmm. It's kind of frustrating, I think. It's just, I don't like those kind of conveniences. And it just basically draws out the scene a little bit more than I thought was necessary.
So the scene is drawn out. I agree partially with you on this point that they are fabricating stuff and they're shoehorning it in quickly. The other series did that as well. I'll give you a good example. It's not from a TV show, but it's a short segment from The Search for Spock. You know, the Ponfar scene when Savick is trying to teach Spock about Ponfar because he's going through the 7-year itch there and he's got to calm himself. He doesn't know about masturbation or anything like that, so he's got to do the hand thing.
Which is also called masturbation, but continue.
That's right. But that works. Those scenes work because they don't cut away with a bunch of other mumbo jumbo. What's happening here is in this TV show, it's modern filmmaking. Quick cut, quick cut, quick cut, quick cut. There, they actually linger, stay, and you're getting some world building on the culture. And I feel that that's something that's a bit different in the way things used to be filmed or the way something should be filmed in a more proper way if you really want to explore something. Take your time, make it important. And what they could have done with this scene, they could have been doing this stuff in, say, previous episodes instead of fucking ice skating or sliding down fucking Borg always. And you expand on this. Maybe you have a few sessions of this where she's trying to unlock it. You know, what's going on with her mind so they can get the location of the synthetic planet. And you build on this. Maybe it's not just this one room. It's several different Romulan techniques. And that's world building. And that's how you can do it better.
Mm-hmm. You're right. It's not like we haven't had enough time with these characters. God, we've had so much time with, it feels like we've had 40 episodes worth of Soji and Narek. They certainly could have done more world building, if you want to call it that, as opposed to just throwing this here. But yeah, we do get, they did allude to what their purpose was before, which was looking for where she came from, I think, so where they could destroy them all. But yeah, that is more clearly spelled out here. So there's a planet, or there's 2 red moons and a lightning storm in space, because I guess that's cool in Star Trek now.
Well, they end up in Tatooine. You never know.
Yeah, really. So that's kinda, and what's her name's watching as well. So she gets the location, Rizzo. She gets the location of the home world. So what's on this planet then? Like, is there a whole species of these things? These synthetics?
Well, I'm assuming that after the implication or the interpretation I have here is that after that Mars incident, I'm assuming all the synthetics just said, let's do our own thing and make our own planet. Or that's what they're thinking, and they're all there. There's obviously no synthetics anywhere else now, except Soji now, right? So
I guess so.
I'm really hoping that planet is just run by lore. That would be fucking fantastic.
That's kind of what I was hoping as well. I just wonder if that's too obvious.
No. Laura's not part of this. I highly doubt. I'd be shocked if he was.
I would be shocked as well.
Yeah.
I would be shocked as well.
I'd be pleasantly shocked, because I'm always up for more lore. Are you prepared for the kind of death you've earned, little man? So, maybe we finally get Wesley to die, right? So
that'd be great. Wouldn't that be great? Like, we get to that planet and
there's a bunch of
Wesley has him frozen in carbonite or something.
This is a bunch of Wesley effigies everywhere, right? So.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great. That'd be fantastic.
So, but seriously speaking, it's not gonna. I don't think I'd highly doubt he's part of this. So
I highly doubt it as well. I mean, I'm glad that it's not feeling too predictable. I'm just hoping it's going to earn. Like, they're really holding off here for what feels like is supposed to be a big reveal. I hope they earn it. I really do. Mm-hmm. I don't want it to be just something lame.
Yeah, I hope not.
And because that'd be a real shame. There's going to be a season 2, so that's great. I don't know if they're going to wrap up all of these threads in the next few episodes, or if there's going to be some carryover to season 2. I guess we'll see. But anyway, so Narek locks her in there and he has that cube which releases gas in order to kill her, but so now she finally activates and she punches her way through the floor. We run into Picard and Hugh. So Picard finally finds her, so that's great. And then a little chase through the Borg cube there. What did you? I mean, the design of the Borg cube is obviously different than what we've seen before. It's less, cables and cords, or we haven't really talked about the design of the cube. Like, what do you think? Sort of a little more monolithic, I guess, but like sort of shifting panels and less. Like sort of that, I don't want to say like organic machinery look of the old cubes, but there were lots of like tubes everywhere, and was all almost looked kind of cobbled together. This is a little sleeker looking.
I'm okay with it. I think they could have done a better job with the set design. I would appreciate it a little bit of more of integration, the way the older cubes looked. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of bridging it into something else. Because I like the old cubes because they were a bit more creepy.
Yeah, that's right. They were creepier. Yeah.
Yeah, they were creepier. Yeah. So I'm assuming I can let it go because if the people are working here, they don't want it to be creepy. So I'm assuming that people just kind of, did some renovations here and spent all the Romulan refugees, rescue money into refurbishing this Borg cube. So I'm assuming that's what happened here.
That kind of tracks. That's a good point. You can't really can't expect people to be living there if it was creepy there. So, Hugh takes them to the Queen's chamber and fire up the special. What was it called? The spatial trajector?
I don't know what they called it. I'm trying to think the race's name. Sarkarians or Sarkarians?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that from, we had the Guardian at the Edge of Forever, but that was going back into time. Then you had Iconians from TNG. Mm-hmm. And so now there's this other one from something.
Well, this is a Voyager callback. So the race, the Voyager ran into this race in like season 1 of Voyager, and they didn't have starships. They just, like this species they came across, they didn't have starships, but they had this transporter that could transport, and the whole episode was like about Janeway trying to broker for the technology, because they were like the Federation. They kind of had a prime directive where they didn't give technology to other races before they could learn it themselves. So it was actually kind of an interesting episode. They ended up stealing the technology.
Okay.
Well, like the Maquis stole the technology, right? Okay. And then they're like, okay, well, we've got it, but it wouldn't integrate with Voyager's system, so it didn't work. But that race was then assimilated by the Borg afterwards, right? So they stole that technology, and they did mention that it did happen on Voyager where the Queen had it, I do believe. But anyway, it's interesting that they're doing these Voyager callbacks on.
It makes sense, because if you're dealing with the Borg, they're from the Delta Quadrant. That's okay.
And Voyager did do the most exploration of the Borg. Like that was where all the screen time was.
Yeah, so I'm okay with this. I'm glad they're making callbacks to, let's say, classic Trek. Mm-hmm. And so that's good. I'm glad they're incorporating some of this stuff. The only question I have here is that, it's a cheap getaway. You're lowering the stakes. Picard's, there's you got a chase scene here. You've got something going on here. You got a new ship, you got a new crew, and now Picard just makes a clean getaway, and it's just like, oh, just meet me at this planet. It makes it easy. I guess, again, budgetary. They're trying to save money maybe for the finale because for other set pieces, but it just felt a bit cheap. Here's a quick and easy getaway. And, thinking about the Borg, if they had this tech, wouldn't they be assimilating pretty much everywhere right now?
Yeah, that was the other thing is like, that was Voyager's fault for giving them that power. Because you're right. Like, it's like, why are the Borg not literally everywhere?
Mm. Yeah, you would think that they would have obviously they've adapted the tech to fit their systems. So done. Yeah. I mean,
they just use it.
Yeah.
It's like they just use it as like a secret escape hatch for the Queen. It's like, I think the Borg would probably put that tech to better use as opposed, it's instead of just like a getaway. Like the Queen doesn't even need an escape hatch because it's a collective consciousness.
That's right.
She can just be wherever. So
she can be on every ship. So there you go.
That's right. So like, why aren't they just using this tech to spread everywhere? Like it just literally go everywhere.
So a little bit of Pandora's box is there, but you're not supposed to question it. You just let it go.
Well, no, and it's not the only Star Trek technology where if you start to dig too deep, then it ends up being self-defeating because it all just ends up being magic.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's okay. It just, it's there to create a little bit of tension at the episode. Space Elf, what's his name?
Oh yeah.
Elnor shows up there and terminates those Romulans with extreme prejudice. He stabbed that one guy in the throat and then sliced him, half sliced the rest of his neck off, retrieving his sword. It's pretty gory for a Star Trek show, but I don't know, it doesn't seem to fit, but I kind of like him because he's so earnest, but he's too badass.
He's earnest, but I'm not a fan of the actor. I don't think he's rubbing me. He's not rubbing me the right way, but I mean, you need a bad. Yeah, you need I think they've kind of looked at, I need a hand-to-hand guy with a sword. I need a captain who's a badass like Kirk with, my fists and maybe some guns. I got Raffi. She'll be good with guns. I got a doctor lady over here. I've got, and then Picard, the old man. So.
And 12 holograms.
And then 12 holograms. So they're kind of fitting checking every box here. So.
Yeah, they're trying to make a crew that's got a lot of different shit going on.
Yeah. I don't know. It's okay. It was ham-fisted how he just shows up there all of a sudden, and it's just.
Well, you knew he was gonna though, right?
It's gonna go. It just feels so. It's not filmed well, man. That's my problem. I don't like the way these these shows are being filmed, and it's just not as engaging. It's just think about how they did it on TNG and stuff like that. Worf just shows up. It's a bigger thing. They kind of make it. It's not just because
if it had been Worf, he would have gone down. It's a good thing it wasn't Worf. Picard would have been captured right there.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. My point being is that it's just the way it's filmed. It makes it a bit more exciting. It's more dramatic. This is less dramatic, less exciting. I think it's just the way it's being shot and filmed. Amateurish is how I would say. But from the character perspective. I don't know, from a character's perspective, I'm not a fan of the characters so far, but it's episode 6 out of 10 in season 1, so let's see what happens here. I just don't know why, I don't know why you didn't go with him. No,
well, I was wondering that too.
Because nobody was chasing him down. He's saying, I gotta stay to make sure I got your back, but there was nobody in the room.
They were chasing them down though. I rewatched the episode a few hours ago, cause I had the same thing when I first watched it. I'm like, why didn't they just go with Picard into the super duper transporter? I suppose, why didn't they do that? But they were there to kind of cover the escape, so they didn't want, because there were other Romulans on the way. So that's clearly stated. Soji can even hear them coming. They escape through. Picard says, okay, let's all go. And they're like, no, we have to cover your escape, because he was like, we have to shut down the machine and purge the records, before we need enough time to do that before they get here. So you go, we'll take care of that. And then it was up to, Elnor to hold off the Romulans while Hugh shut down all of the equipment. And cause the room was hidden. So he needed time to reformulate and close off all of that, so that it was just whoop, they just vanished. Or they think that perhaps they're still on the cube. Right. Because there's no way they could have escaped, right? So that's why when I saw it again, I'm like, okay, that's why I stay behind.
Okay. Picard didn't say goodbye or thank you to Hugh, but that's okay.
He did say thank you.
He did? I don't know.
I think so.
Oh, no, he did earlier, I think.
Well, it's a tense situation.
Okay. Yeah,
he didn't tell. He didn't. It's not like he gave him the middle finger on his way through the transporter. Either.
No, he just did a Luke Skywalker to Lando. He just disappeared, like leaving Lando on the planet, right?
Yeah.
Where the fuck is Luke?
40 years later.
Yeah.
Coming back, or
that's all good. There's a lot of aliens to keep Lando company. So, if you know what I mean.
Oh, you know, Lando's taking advantage of all of that company.
He made a lot of desert flowers over there.
He sure did. He sure did. And good for him.
Yeah, good for him. Yeah.
Oh man, that's why he had to wear that mask, that costume the whole time. He couldn't walk around showing his face, right?
They all knew him.
Too many child support payments.
You would think at that point they'd all be able to smell him. It's like in Commando. You think you could smell him coming? I did.
Well, that's why he lived with all. That's why he was among all the trash, all that garbage, so that he could mask his scent. Because Lando's got that musk about him, right?
Yeah, Colt 45, right? Oh, that's right.
All right, so that's episode 6 of Star Trek Picard. I think we said it at the top. It was a good episode. It wasn't my favorite episode of the season. I think that was still last week's episode, or the pilot. But at least they're not. I was worried that they were gonna keep going from place to place, and I was assuming that they weren't going to get to the cube until episode 10, and that's when the climax was going to happen. So I'm glad that they didn't really waste any time getting to the cube. They just got there, and we did the thing, and now I don't know what's going to happen because they separated the crew, and I think they're finding the right pace to lay out these stories now. So that's one.
I agree 100%. Now I'm actually more excited to see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were just doing this flashback catch-up exposition bullshit until this point, and it was a bit of a mess because Soji was and Narek were like so far ahead, and they had to move at a snail's pace to get Picard and crew and company up to where they are now, and that's one of the reasons why those scenes are all drawn out and boring. Soji Narek stuff. So at least now we can get things going. Narek's now going to be vilified by Soji, which is fine, good stuff. I think now we can get moving and find out what's going on with the synthetics.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Which is the MacGuffin in the first place, so that's good.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that's, I don't think there's anything else. I think we covered it. So thanks everybody for listening, if you're listening. And, check out our other awesome shows. But yeah, we'll wrap it up, and looking forward to episode 7 in another couple of days here.
Yes, no, can't wait. Should be fun.
All right, man. That's a podcast. We'll be back.
We'll be back for episode 7.
That's right.
All right. Take it easy.
Yeah, you too.